Welcome, fellow basketball nerds, to another episode of the Unquestionably Raw NBA podcast. We are live once again. We had another basketball game tonight, another conference final game. Although watching it in the first half, you may not have thought it was much of a game, but it is what it is. Final score, I believe it was 113, 117, 104, I think, something like that. I can't even remember the damn score. Yeah, 113, yeah. Yeah, my fault. I knew the Celtics had 104. Yeah, 117, 104. I was right. Yeah. So 13-point game. It was pretty much a blowout most of the way. The score, it's a lot closer than it really was. I mean, it was almost a 30-point game at one point. Boston just couldn't make threes to start the game. So I'm going to go to you first, Gonzo. Celtics have been making threes. They've made them when they've needed to. It wasn't there tonight. Can Celtics turn this thing around? Can these threes fall? Can they take game two?
Can things turn around? Yes, it can get much better. Will it take game two? Absolutely not. It's just there's no answer. There's no answer for LeBron James in the Eastern Conference. There's not enough competition for him. There's nobody in the Eastern Conference that's even remotely close to the level of the superstar that he is. I'm sorry. He's just head and heels above every player in the Eastern Conference. The East is just that weak.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And Isaiah Thomas was kind of a no-show. Al Horford didn't do much tonight. Pete, what do you think? Can Boston come back? Can they make these 3-point shots that they've made when they've needed them in the playoffs? They haven't been consistent, but when they've needed to make threes, they've made their threes.
Honestly, it was a tough start for Isaiah Thomas. And the way the offense is run, obviously, he's your go-to guy. He misses 11 of his first 14 shots and just kind of took the team out of a rhythm. Who else on that team is going to be able to make shots besides Al Horford? Avery Bradley can get hot in spots, but he's out there having to play defense on Kyrie Irving or, switch off. And he's only 6'2", so kind of being guarded on defense, it is a little tough for him to get a shot off at will. Kelly Olynyk, was absent. Honestly, I love that Boston, put up a fight this year and in the East and made it competitive in the regular season. But come playoff time, it's all about the Cavs and LeBron. They're 33-4 in the past 3 years against the Eastern Conference. So that tells you all you need to know about what the Cavs do come playoff time.
It doesn't matter with the regular season. I mean, we saw 2 years ago the Hawks dominate the regulars, win 60 games. No Kyrie, no Kevin Love, dog. The Cavs still sweep them. Although I think this Celtics team, I actually think they can get game two because I think they will make threes. I think that'll be enough. I predicted a 5-game series. I think they can get game two. I think the threes will go. But before, I want to talk about, because Greg, Gonzo mentioned it. I saw him on Twitter. He made the tweet, no one's playing with any heart but Jaylen Brown. How good was he tonight, Gonzo? He played well.
He was pretty good. Jaylen Brown was 5 for 7 shooting, 10 points, 9 rebounds. I mean, to be a small forward and you're coming off the bench and you've got more rebounds than anybody else in the starting lineup, that just shows how much heart he has. And honestly, the guy should be starting. I'm sorry. Possibly due to the fact that you have Kevin Love that shoots a lot of threes. I would risk putting Jaylen Brown in for Amir Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I mean, considering that
you could just you could put Jay Crowder on Kevin Love.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Just put Jaylen Brown on LeBron because he plays good positional defense. Like I said, he gets momentum shots. It's like there's almost shots to keep them in the game, and they seem to bring him a little bit of momentum. When he's scoring or when he's on a break, when he's hustling, getting rebounds. Just nobody else on his team seems to do this. But my biggest problem tonight, though, is this here with Boston. How do you let Tristan Thompson go 20-9?
And of those 9 rebounds,
6 of them from field goals,
and 6 of those rebounds were off on the offensive end.
Like, I don't understand that. That's probably the biggest problem I see so far. And the Cavs only had what 14 points off the bench from the bench tonight.
Mm-hmm. They didn't do well off the bench at all. They didn't need it.
They're going to need
I think that
the finals time though.
Oh yeah. Against Golden State,
absolutely.
that bench is going to have to step up against Golden State. Pete, do you think the Celtics? Do you think we'll get some more playing time from Jaylen Brown going forward? Because he did a lot of good things tonight.
I love that Gonzo said that you need to put Jaylen Brown in the starting lineup because he's absolutely right. You've got to have Jaylen Brown's size in there. I've heard a lot of people before the series started say start the 3-guard lineup of Bradley, Smart, and Isaiah Thomas. I mean, with Bradley only being 6'2", and what's Smart, 6'3",
6'3" and a half, 6'4".
Yeah, and then obviously Isaiah Thomas only 5'8". I mean, you're going to get killed. And then you look at the matchup tonight. Joe Green played better than he has basically. He didn't play at all in the last series, but he played offensively better in the playoffs so far than he did basically through the entire season. I think you go with a combo of Jaylen Brown, Joe Green. You don't utilize Kelly Olynyk as much, and then you don't use Amir Johnson at all. Try to see, what's it going to hurt if you go small because, you're playing LeBron and the Cavs anyway. So if you steal a game or two, you have to take that as a win. If you're Boston and you're in that locker room, you think you can win the series. But if you're a, Celtics fan that's a realistic fan, you have to know.
Thank you.
You have to know it's a win to get a game, over the Cavs or even 2 games. That's, really good momentum going into next season. But you realistically have to know you're not going to win the series.
No, it's a good thing you said realistic fans, and I made a tweet, that I felt bad for the Celtics fans who actually thought they were going to win this series and get to the finals. We got the 1 seed, we're going to the finals. No, our guy, our good buddy Keith Smith was like, oh, realistic fans knew that wasn't. We were just hoping for 5 or a 6-game series, maybe 7.
I mean, you have to be realistic. Any team. It is. I mean, any team you're going to have delusional fans. Let's look at the Nets and
I mean, look at our Nets preview this year in our comment section of our Nets preview video. We had guys roasting us because we didn't think they were going to go to the playoffs.
Wow, go figure.
Yeah, they were going to be a top defensive team and a top 10 offensive team. I mean, so you can't please everybody in today's social media NBA. Obviously, I agree. I think Jaylen Brown should start. I think you put him in there with Crowder. Let Crowder guard Kevin Love. Let put Jaylen Brown on LeBron James because, like Gonzo, he played good positional defense. And I thought one thing Marcus Smart did in the second half, he did box out Tristan Thompson well.
Yeah, he did very well. And and the thing about it is he got in his head, not only boxed him out, but he got in his head to kind of take him out of rhythm. Now, of course, the Celtics were down 20 points, so what does it really matter? But at the end of the day, kind of psychologically going into the next game and beyond, that's kind of an advantage if you have Marcus Smart there to be able to defend, on the boards against Tristan Thompson, and then on the perimeter against a guy like Kyrie, or even try to, stop LeBron in certain spots. You're really not going. Nobody's going to stop.
No. You saw when a couple times Smart tried to guard LeBron. LeBron treated him like a rag doll, and you don't see that happen to Marcus Smart that often. Usually, it's Smart the one doing the pushing and the shoving.
6'9" versus 6'3". I mean, that's going to happen. Plus the weight differential. But at the end of the day, nobody's stopping LeBron. And I will say that the Celtics threw out the let's let LeBron feast and kind of guard everybody else. That didn't work out because had 32 points and shot very well from the outside. But on the flip side, what you want to do with the Celtics, you want guys like Amon Shumpert, who's been terrible throughout the entire season. You want him taking shots. You want Darren Williams coming in and taking shots. You want those guys to shoot the ball as much as possible. Richard Jefferson, all those guys to get looks and hope for the best elsewhere. But the way it's going, the Cavs don't need the bench, as you said earlier.
Yeah, and of course we didn't get to talk much about Kelly Olynyk tonight, obviously, because he wasn't Larry Bird again tonight or Dirk like that. He has the game of his life in Game 7, and he becomes non-existent today. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it didn't surprise me either.
I mean, now I gotta ask this, before we go on to Warriors Spurs. And I'm going to go to you first on this one, Gonzo. I know a lot of people thought if it was going to be Wizards versus Cavs, it would have been a better series. I disagree. I think it's still a 5-game series. Maybe it's a little closer, but, I mean, do you think that would have made much of a difference?
Do I think who? Excuse me, I'm sorry.
That's all right. If it would have been Wizards, Cavs instead of Celtics, would that made much of a difference? I don't think so.
No, it would not. Did you see John Wall's 1 for 9 shooting form of the Game 7?
Yes. Call him out. Yes.
It would be a sweep regardless.
Oh yeah, Otto Porter would be non-existent again in this series. Bradley Beal, might put up good numbers, but I mean, so be it. Actually, Boston fares better. Sneaking a game in.
Yeah, exactly. Because of the three. To me, it's because of the 3-point shooting. Boston's capable of getting really hot. I mean, we saw what was it, Game 5? I think it was Game 5. I talked about it. It was a blowout. I said the one number that mattered. Boston was 71.4% from 3 for the game. You're gonna win when you shoot that good.
Right.
And that's what Boston's capable of doing. Washington's not capable of that. Beal can get hot. I don't think Beal's as great of a shooter as a lot of other people do. He's not Ray Allen like some people compare. He's a very good shooter. I think he's slightly overrated shooting. His form is beautiful, but we saw. Go ahead, Pete.
I was going to say real quick on Washington though, like they've got to be careful because this offseason Otto Porter's a free agent, and to me he didn't look all that inspiring come playoff time. And you don't really have an alternative if you don't pay him because they don't have the money to pay anybody else. And they have to upgrade that bench. So you wonder, Washington came on later in the year, but are they capable of doing it next year if the East improves? Teams like Philly, Orlando's probably going to improve, things like that. Like those teams improve, where is that going to leave Washington?
Yeah. I mean, and you know what, though? We got to be careful with that, Pete, because I think none of us thought they'd even get to the playoffs this year.
I didn't think either, but,
Yeah, exactly. And they were the 4th seed. So
that's because the East was so bad.
Yeah. I think the East will be a little
bit. I don't expect anybody that's a Washington Wizards fan. Kudos to them. They played their ass off this year to get where they were. But, I mean, I think the East was a little bit weaker than it has been in the past. If Miami can come all the way back and almost sneak into the playoffs,
exactly. And I remember I said that everything had to break right for the Wizards to get in, and it really did break right for them. Beal stayed healthy. Gortat was really good. Otto Porter was fantastic during the regular season. John Wall he took that next little step. So it really all broke right for him to make the playoffs, And I wasn't surprised I didn't think they would, but it didn't shock me because everything went right for them this year. I would have never predicted them to damn near get 3rd, but it happens. That's why we love the NBA. They're always, things happen in the NBA. It's a great game. But now I want to go to Golden State versus the Spurs. We were going to talk about this last night, but the internet gremlins got me, so we couldn't do it. But I'm going to go to Gonzo. The Warriors Spurs. And I remember my first question to you last night before, I went out, Gonzo, was this. Even though Kawhi Leonard was out, we knew the Warriors were going to come out and probably win this game without Kawhi. But the Spurs didn't play Spurs basketball last night. A lot of one-on-one, quick shots. It just didn't look like a San Antonio team. Well, what did you think, Gonzo?
I think one of the reasons why they didn't really look like a team is because they didn't have Kawhi Leonard. But it's very different. They were playing Houston. Not such a great defensive team when they played without Kawhi Leonard. They played like a team. They looked great. They're playing against the Warriors, probably one of the best defensive teams in the league. So you're not going to look as crisp as you usually would. The best thing I can say about last night's game is that the plus side for both teams is that everybody scored on. Other than that, I mean, Spurs on the road to get swept too. I predicted it. I think maybe after the Utah series, I said Golden State's going to be the first team. I don't know if this is the first team, but they're going to be one of the only teams, if they are the only team, to sweep completely to the playoffs. I think they're going to win every round 4-0, even the finals.
Interesting. Wow. Gonzo, I like that Gonzo's. He's not backing off that, and I like it, Pete. Like you know, obviously it was 136-100, just a massive blowout. Like you saw it. Like the Spurs, like against Houston without Kawhi in Game 6, they moved. It kind of was a blessing because they got back to playing Spurs basketball, ball movement, slowing the pace. They didn't do that against the Golden State Warriors last night. Right. Even without Kawhi, there wasn't a lot. You know, it was a lot of one-on-one play, and it just Aldridge was terrible. Like, what do you think's going on here, kid? Why weren't they able to play Spurs basketball even without Kawhi?
Well, whenever everybody's outside of Jonathan Simmons starts out 3 for 22, I mean that's not going to get it done. LaMarcus Aldridge has been hit or miss all season. You know, he has games where he's able to dominate, and he looks like Portland Trailblazer LaMarcus Aldridge, you know, kind of putting the team on his back, and then he has moments where he just disappears. Pau Gasol's, you know, having a lot of missed reads as far as when to set screens, and obviously is a liability defensively. But I think it's just Golden State being just so good at being able to switch things up. And you get guys like Klay Thompson that struggle, but then you've got to figure out, if you're the Spurs, how you're going to defend Draymond Green, how you're going to defend Kevin Durant, how you're going to defend Steph Curry. And last night, how are you going to defend Patrick McCall?
Yes, I mean, yes.
When you've got Patrick McCall, who obviously is a guy you're very high on that.
Yes, I love him.
18 points, 5 assists off the bench. You know, come on. You know, what are you going to do?
And here's the thing. Especially in these playoffs, when Patrick McCall has had to fill in for injured guys, KD against Portland, and then now like for Iguodala, he's done really, really well as a fill-in.
Yeah,
they haven't really missed a beat almost.
No, and you have to almost play him with the shooting ability from the outside, defensively with his length. You have to play him over Matt Barnes, which I'm glad Steve Kerr told Mike Brown to, you know, you might want to think about putting McCall in the lineup, and it worked out. But one thing that I want to just touch on very quick is, you know, Greg Popovich went on the rant about Zaza Pachulia and all that. What about LaMarcus Aldridge doing a little, I don't know what you call it, like sliding his foot or whatever you want underneath Kevin Durant.
Yes, exactly. I retweeted that. I didn't recognize it during the game. Someone put a video on it, and I retweeted that same thing. Yes, he did and that was way more obvious than what.
Yeah, I mean, he slid his foot underneath, and luckily Durant, you can kind of see was looking down, kind of as his foot landed, and it landed in front of where Aldridge put his foot. But I mean, come on, like.
But you know what? You know why no one's talking, though? Because nothing happened. Nobody got hurt, so no one's talking about it.
Right, but, I mean, it's kind of like payback there. And side note, Zaza Pachulia came back. His MRI came back, basically just the bruised right heel. You know, nothing broken or anything like that. So hopefully he'll play.
I was going to – yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to ask you that. Starting the second half was Matt Barnes. So if Z-Patch can't go on Saturday, do you go Matt Barnes in the starting lineup? Or do you go Michael McAdoo?
I mean,
because I think he'll stick with McGee off the bench.
Yeah, I mean, you can't put McGee makes too many mistakes if he gets too much playing time. Like he's one of those that like the kid like is the last player on the bench and he's like running into play and you're all excited for that moment, and then he fucks up on defense. You're like, get your ass back to the bench.
It's last night's our Stacey King when JaVale McGee he's like Stacey King was like JaVale McGee with a great jump pass to the Warrior fan in front row.
Yeah, I mean, it's you can't play him for long stretches as a starter. I guess you go with that Draymond at center and put
Barnes at the 4.
Yeah. Barnes in there. I mean, the thing with Barnes is he can still defend. More so, his ability on an NBA team is to get in the other team's head,
which he does well.
I don't know that he's going to be able to do that to the Spurs as much. But at the end of the day, you give him a few minutes and then you swap him out for JaVale McGee. And
absolutely
go from there.
And it's not like he has to do much to guard. I mean, James Harden was guarding Pau Gasol, so
yeah, Gasol's kind of.
And I think Barnes can do a better job on Gasol than James Harden did.
Yeah, Gasol's at the point now where he's got about a year left, and that might be all she wrote.
Hey, and Pete's being nice saying that.
Yeah, I mean, he can still do a little bit offensively off the bench. So
yeah, he did good. He was actually really good against the Rockets. Outside of Game 1, he actually played well.
Rockets don't play defense, so I'm
not even really referring off. He was pretty good defensively against the Rockets. He really protected the rim well.
Well, Clint Capella's on offense, so I don't know.
That's okay.
No offense, because I know Kurt Lowe might be watching. So no offense, Kurt Lowe, but Capella's not an offensive star, so it's not hard to stop at this point for rim runs and stuff like that, so.
Yes. Gonzo, I'm going to you here for this. If Z-Patch is out, do you go Matt Barnes at the 4 if you're Golden State?
I guess. I mean,
that's what I was.
Honestly,
that's code word for it doesn't really matter what Golden State does.
It honestly doesn't matter. I mean, if you really think about it, they got so many weapons. I'm talking about, and they look to shoot the threes. And the trick part, they're going to get those shots.
You can go Kevin Durant at the 5.
Yeah,
you can mix that lineup any way you want to. And like I said, they're probably still going to blow them out. So it really doesn't matter.
So let me ask this: and then before we go to our, the NBA draft lottery, Kawhi obviously gets hurt in Game 1. They're up 23 points. Most likely, we're probably all on the same page. If Kawhi doesn't go down, the Spurs win that game. I don't know if they blow them out by 20, but I think they still win the game. They hold on. Would that change your outlook on this series, though? If the Spurs would have took Game 1, you got Gonzo. Do you think the Spurs still would have lost? Even if they took Game 1, would the Warriors? Were they still going to win the series?
Before Game 1 was played, I said Golden State was sweep.
Yes,
but the fact that they were up 23 points with Kawhi Leonard is just a little bit of credit to Kawhi Leonard. He does so much for them on defense, running people off the 3-point line. He's so good. He can actually kind of guard the 3-point line and kind of get in the paint and strip pass. I mean, strip guys going to the basket. He just such large hands, good wingspan. He just does so much for that team defensively. And now he's becoming such a big threat offensively that they were up 20-something points at halftime. I honestly believe if he would have played the whole entire game, they would have still won by a dub. I honestly believe they would have won by 20.
Okay. I think they would have won the game. I don't know how much they would. I don't want to predict that because we saw Curry was getting hot. And in my opinion, when that second quarter started, if you watched, the Spurs made 2 really big plays that prevented a huge run. Curry comes out hot. And, it's 14. Gets it down. They get it down to 14. Aldridge just throws up that 3 at the shot clock. It goes in. Aldridge is trash, and it goes in. A trash shot you don't expect. They're up 17. Curry comes down. I think he makes another shot. Then Simmons catches it from the side in the corner at the shot clock, throws it up there, and it goes in. They dodge some bullets there. If those 2 lucky shots don't go in, I think it could be. And that's with Kawhi playing. That was before he got hurt. I think it could have gone different. But that's when I said it's the Spurs afternoon. They're going to win this game.
That's why I think that Kawhi gives the team a sense of confidence, even when it's just a lucky shot thrown up or LaMarcus Aldridge fading away. I think Kawhi gives the team so much confidence. I think they believe in themselves when he's out.
Because look, when he went out, LaMarcus Aldridge refused to post up lower down on the block and closer to the rim. Kawhi goes out and LaMarcus is posting out at the elbow, extended free throw. Like, what the hell are you doing? You're making it easy for the defense. But if the Spurs, let's say they would, Kawhi's healthy when they win the game, they're up 1-0. Do you still think the Warriors win this series, in 6 or 7?
No. Spurs win game one. I honestly believe they could take it 6 or 7 games.
And you think the
Kawhi's
Spurs would have won the series, though, if they win game one? Or you think Golden State still wins it?
Possibly. Because one reason, I'm going to tell you something. If you look at what Kawhi Leonard was doing to Kevin Durant in the first half, it wasn't a whole lot he was doing. Like he didn't really snap out of it to after Kawhi was gone. When Kawhi was in there, Kevin Durant wasn't the guy that was hot.
I mean, Durant
wasn't hot.
Yeah, I mean, Durant did have 14 in the first half. He didn't make any threes when Kawhi was guarding, but he was 6 of 10 from non 3-point shots.
Okay, see, I mean that's still a plus. I mean, you're not going to stop a superstar completely.
Exactly.
I mean, but you can hold him at bay. Steph Curry, on the other hand,
that's a bad match. Curry's a bad matchup for the Spurs.
He is, but I've always liked Golden State, but they're such a dirty team. I want them to lose so bad now. Like seriously, they are dirty, and I'm not talking about the Zaza Steph thing. I'm talking about their screens they're obviously dirty. Like the 1-3 when Steph Curry
you're talking about when Pachulia just threw Patty Mills.
He just threw Patty Mills across the 3-point line. I'm like, the ref didn't see that?
You know what? Hey, you know what though?
The refs don't want to see stuff.
Hey, but you know what? Here's the thing though. Someone pointed out on Twitter. They screenshotted the video. The ref was looking at Steph Curry when it happened, so he wasn't even looking at the off ball action.
But
that's the thing. Like,
shouldn't refs have like?
So bad.
Look, see that's already bad. And it's time for some new officials because peripheral vision. Sometimes when you're driving, we know you're looking straight away at the road, but you have to use your peripheral vision just to see if somebody's on the side. Sometimes it's not just what's directly in front of you. You kind of got to keep your eye on everything at once. And I don't know if he's looking at Steph Curry, how in the world he managed to miss that bogus screen. Like it's right in front of him.
Yeah, that I thought it was a foul. Should have been a foul.
It's like referees have selective amnesia. Seriously, they choose to forget what they like to.
But remember, it got the superstar Curry open, and like you said, Gonzo, the superstars get the calls.
And that goes right there along with what you just said. There's always been what I've been saying. The NBA, it has to be rigged because anytime there's a superstar call, that lets me know that you're rigging it for somebody. And that's the superstar. So you mean to tell me if a no-name guy off the bench goes through the same situation, he gets no call or he gets a call against him because he's just not a superstar?
If that's Ian Clark coming off the screen, if that's Ian Clark coming off that screen, it's a moving screen call.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the point I'm trying to make. That there in itself, the NBA has just recognized that it's rigged. I don't know how. There's no other way you can say it. They're telling on themselves.
Yes, we like conspiracy theories here. That's what we do here. Pete, Kawhi, obviously you probably agree. If he plays, they win game one. If he doesn't get hurt, do you still see the Warriors winning the series though? Even if the Spurs take game one?
Yeah, I mean, I would have gone off my prediction of Warriors winning 5 and probably pushed it to 6. I love Kawhi Leonard's game, but I think he's having to do too much on offense right now. If I'm the Spurs this offseason, you've got to get some kind of help for him. LaMarcus Aldridge is not going to do it. I'm sorry.
No.
I really like Dejounte Murray. I think he can, he'll be a player in a couple of years. He's just not there yet. Patty Mills, they're going to do what they can to re-sign him, but I mean, he's still more of a bench player. So you've got to have a stopgate next season because I just don't believe in Tony Parker. I think he's,
he may have to retire. I mean, he tore the tendon in his quad or whatever. He may not play again. He's old.
He'll be okay. He'll
be old. But he's old.
Not going to be the same player. But
and he was not very good this year. He's old.
And Ginobili's going to be 40. You're not really seeing I guess a uptick in level of play from Kyle Anderson, so that's a wash. You got good minutes, obviously, out of Jonathan Simmons, but potentially you're going to lose him in a year or two.
Is he a free agent this summer?
I don't remember if it's this summer or next.
Okay, because if he's this summer, he's gone. He's going to get paid.
I'd have to look and see, but at the end of the day, I mean, the Warriors are just too strong all the way around, and I'm not a Warriors homer at all. Like,
no,
I'm obviously a Sixers fan, and but at the end of the day, perfect point that Gonzo made. If you're getting the calls that are just blatantly missed, or
yes,
want to be missed by the officials, like they just don't want to see it. That's going to do it, and it was that way in every series outside of basically the Cavs and Toronto. To me, like there's been so bad of missed calls. Look at the last 2-minute reports that so many games could have went the other way.
And it's not just the Warriors getting all the calls. It's a lot of bad officiating all the way around. I think they're gonna have to make a change. But at the end of the day, as long as the NBA gets their superstars in the finals, I think it's what we're gonna see. As far as this series goes, if Kawhi, they win game 1 if Kawhi stays healthy, I agree. I still think they lose in 6. I think they would have eventually worn the Spurs down. And I think the Warriors did come out rusty. They'd been off for, about a week almost. I think they came out sloppy. And it kind of reminded me of the first game of the season when the San Antonio Spurs beat the snot out of them. That wasn't going to continue. They weren't going to manhandle this Warriors team like the Rockets. This is not the Houston Rockets. The Warriors are great defensively. I mean, they're the number 1 rated defense in the playoffs so far. And they eventually would have got them. They would have won game 2. They would have went into San Antonio and took at least 1 or 2 there. And they would have won it in 5 or 6 still. The Spurs, game 1, if they were going to steal one of those first, it was game 1. And obviously we saw what happened. But I think you still have to give the Warriors credit. They were down 23 points halfway through the third quarter when he went down. It's not like the Spurs, and Ginobili still made shots.
Who was going to make a shot for the Spurs?
Ginobili made some plays down for him, but still.
Who is your go-to?
Oh, absolutely nobody. But still,
that was the thing that killed them. Like they had nobody to go to.
And they struggled against that pressure defense the Warriors decided to put on them.
Right. And just to go back real quick, Jonathan Simmons he's a restricted free agent this season.
But still that's tough because if he gets paid, the Spurs have to match.
Right. And they talked about re-signing Patty Mills, who's unrestricted. So
I think it comes down to a choice between the two because I think Simmons is looking at least $10 million a year.
I bank on Patty Mills before I pick Simmons because Simmons throughout the year was good in stretches and then missed out of the rotation.
And I think Simmons he's looking at least $10 million a season.
I mean,
that would be my guess.
Thing to pay him or something like that, go for it. But
yeah, absolutely. Now I think let's get to the NBA draft lottery, and I'm going to go to Pete on this one. Obviously, your Sixers get number 3. The Lakers, they keep their pick. They move up to number 2. Boston gets number 1. Number 4 goes to Phoenix. They drop from 2 to 4. 5 goes to Sacramento because of the pick swap. They really were 3rd, but Philadelphia got the swap. 6, Orlando. The Knicks, it's not rigged because the Knicks didn't get into the top 3, so it's not rigged.
But real quick, somehow, and I'm just throwing this, I'm throwing this out for fun, not because I, really stand behind it, but Magic Johnson knew beforehand that the Lakers were going to keep their pick. So interesting enough.
Did he really know?
I don't know. He told Luke Walton, and Luke Walton reported to like USA Today or somebody that, well, Magic Johnson told me that we're absolutely keeping that pick in the draft, and there was no like he believes or anything like that, in that article. So
it's rigged. It's rigged. It's rigged then.
There because I don't think it's rigged, but
the lady who brought out the envelopes was supposed to be the only person who knew the results. If Magic knew that it's rigged,
I don't know, but if it was rigged, the Knicks would have got number 1 and
no. You know what though? You know what it is? They couldn't give them both because then it would be too obvious. So they had to choose one.
Right.
They figured, Knicks, you got Porzingis. We're going to give the Lakers the number. We're going to give them a top 3 pick. But I'm curious, Pete. What do you think's going to happen here? going towards draft day? You know, what do your Sixers do? What do you think ultimately happens with this Boston pick?
Last night when it first happened, I was kind of leaning towards them trading it, but kind of thinking about it, Paul George isn't going to want to be in Boston. They can go after Gordon Hayward pretty heavily in free agent to get a max guy in there. Fultz is basically a replacement for Isaiah Thomas. So you build around Fultz, Jaylen Brown, say they get Gordon Hayward. You've got the 2018 first round, probably top 3 pick in another Brooklyn pick. So I mean that's pretty good core to build around. If you're Boston, looking at the Lakers, we know who's going to the Lakers.
Yes.
It was funny because Magic threw out today, Lonzo Ball, Markelle Fultz, they were going to work out those two, and then he threw in Josh Jackson, and I'm thinking there ain't no way in hell you're going to pick Josh Jackson over Lonzo Ball. Like, it just wouldn't happen.
Especially you already got Brandon Ingram.
Right, so you can squash that. Philly's where it gets interesting in the draft, as it does for most drafts after the top 2 picks. They can go in a number of ways. I talked about earlier, they could pick De'Aaron Fox just to trade him later to a team at the bottom end of the top 10, you know, get an extra player or an asset for later. You've got Jason Tatum. I don't know that he really fits there. I like him, but I don't know that he fits long term. Ultimately, Malik Monk, of course, is the best fit, but 3 is too high. So say you reach out to Sacramento, or not Sacramento, to Orlando or Minnesota, if you think that Fox would be something that they would want to go for, because you got to think Minnesota, would want Fox with his speed, athleticism, defensive prowess, because Ricky Rubio is not going to be there forever. And Chris Dunn actually looked better at the 2 last year, at the end of the season, more than he did at the 1. But again, the point guard spot's the hardest to pick. But
and Fox would be great in with the defensive schemes of Thibodeau.
But I mean it's a long shot because you never know what's going to happen. It only takes one team to kind of break things up and kind of go different direction. Phoenix is another one that could go after Fox because Ryan McDonough, the GM, loves Kentucky guys, evident of how many there are on the team already. And then looking at 5, Sacramento, obviously point guard's a need. If they lose Rudy Gay, they're going to need a small forward. Scalabrine is kind of their power forward, but he's not all the way proven yet. So they could go different directions. A guy, just to wrap it up real fast, a guy that I'm not really high on that everybody has been super high on is Jonathan Isaac. I don't know that he's going to – right now because of his weight, he's the 3. I don't know that his shot's going to develop enough that he's going to be able to be a long-term 3. He could be a small ball 4, but then I look at if he develops offensively, you're looking at Al Thornton on offense. Defensively,
Al Thornton, former Los Angeles Clipper
and Florida State grad.
Yeah.
I just don't know. It's just a big risk for
if you're a Jonathan Isaac fan, that's the last comparison you want to hear.
No, just on offense. If he panned out, I think that's his feeling. If he panned out offensively as a scorer, but I think that defensively is where Isaac's going to have to make his mark. But I don't know if he goes to Orlando, you've got to worry about another hybrid forward.
Yeah.
If you go to Minnesota, I mean you're fitting into the lineup with Wiggins and Towns, possibly as a 4. So where's that leave the big contract of Gorgie Jang? And Bielitsa's pretty good there. So I don't know that Isaac gets a ton of playing time because it's under Thibodeau and he's a rookie. If he slips down, let's see, the Knicks have 8. They definitely need a guard. They don't need Isaac.
Monk.
I don't know. I don't really know if Isaac slips where he fits before going to a team like Dallas.
You know what? It may be Isaac may be that guy who falls 12, 13, or 14.
I mean, he's also a guy that
He
could go
slip.
He could go
Top.
3 and
Yeah,
be
yeah.
shot.
You know what? He's that guy. Look at Isaac. I think he could be pretty good. He has a really high ceiling, but he also has a very low floor. I think that's the problem with him. I mean, you could be looking at like an Anthony Randolph all over again, a guy with a super high ceiling.
That's a better.
Yeah, a guy with that super high ceiling, but then that really low floor, and he just is a total bum.
Right. Now Randolph did some things. He just didn't have the basketball IQ, where Jonathan Isaac has the basketball IQ. I just don't know if he has the overall package that is going to end up being a superstar. Mm-hmm. Malik Monk is a player that can score, obviously, but he's more of a bench scorer. He's not a starter. Mm-hmm. Neta Kalina out of France is probably it's either him or Dennis Smith Jr. who the Knicks take. And for the Knicks fans, you better hope you get Dennis Smith Jr. just for the sake that Neta Kalina is going to take a little while because he's still raw. But I think Smith will end up being a really good player. I think Smith is going to have a better career than De'Aaron Fox personally, but that's just me.
Mm-hmm. We'll see. Everybody knows I'm big on Fox, so we'll see. I think he's going to prove to be a serviceable shooter, a consistent guy who can knock down the open three. He's got good mechanics. I've seen some workout tapes of him, since the season's over. He looks like he's working on his 3-point shot. We'll see. It's just a workout video, so it doesn't mean he's going to be good in the games.
And the comparisons with John Wall have to stop. John Wall is what, 220?
Yeah, they're different players, though.
De'Aaron Fox is like 170 pounds.
Yeah, they're different. I think they're different players. I would not think. I don't know. The only thing that they have in common is they both went to Kentucky.
Well, they're elite speed. I'll give them that.
Yeah, well, that. Yeah.
Fox has trouble shooting and he has trouble finishing at the rim, but defensively and his ball handling are where he excels, and that's going to get him by early. He's got a good mechanic, so it's not like his shot is broken coming out. He's going to have to go to a situation like a Sacramento where he can kind of blend with the young guys, Labissiere, Cauley Stein, like those kind of players.
And Buddy Hield will help him out because Buddy Hield can shoot the ball.
Right.
I had to throw Buddy Hield out there. Well, this wouldn't be an episode without me mentioning Buddy Hield. Everybody knows I'm really high on him now, as I once was not. And I got to go to you, Gonzo. It's been a minute since we've gone to you here. Do you think Boston keeps that pick? And if so, who do you think Boston goes with?
I think they're going to trade their pick.
Okay.
But I think they're going to pick Lonzo Ball first.
Ooh. Really? Interesting.
Yes. I honestly believe they're going to pick Lonzo because you can do, believe it or not, Markelle Fultz, he averaged 25 points in college, but he was on a losing team.
Only played 9 games.
He only won 9 games. He's 6'4". They say he has a wingspan of like someone 6'9". I mean, that's all fine and dandy, but the first qualification is that, and the only attribute they say is that he can shoot, he can score. They didn't say anything about his defense. They don't say too much about him making anybody better, because obviously he didn't do that at Washington. But Lonzo, you can plug Lonzo in probably immediately, and he probably won't give you the numbers, but he could probably make the team a lot better. And everybody needs a point guard. At some point, everybody needs a point guard.
If you go Lonzo,
ball's coming for you if Lonzo ends up in Boston.
Yeah, hey, you're gonna be the hype man, the new hype man for Big Baller Brand, Gonzo. Big Baller Brand, they're coming to hire you.
That's fine, as long as they give me a free pair of those Zo2s.
I like it. Yes. Hey, you give me a pair, I'll be your hype man. I like it. But
Absolutely.
Here's the thing, though. Obviously, he won't start because you got Thomas, you got Avery Bradley. But he'd be a good backup.
Bradley, though, depending.
Yeah. Yeah, and then obviously Isaiah can play off the ball because he's really a 5'8" 2 guard.
Basically.
Absolutely. But like I said, I think they would trade him. I think they could possibly trade him to somebody like Indiana. They could possibly trade him to Utah to get somebody like a Gordon Hayward.
Like in a sign and trade.
Absolutely. Like, because Boston right now, just think of this now. They're in the Eastern Conference.
Mm-hmm.
What are they missing more than anything? A two guard who can score and who has some size. That's something that they don't have. Mm-hmm. You can plug Gordon Hayward in right away. You can plug somebody in like a Jimmy Butler in right away. You can plug Paul George in right away. Mm-hmm. And that could possibly propel them to a championship.
Yeah. I think it depending on Boston, their mentality in the front office. Do we want to be really, really good, compete for conference finals, for the next, and then set ourselves up for the future so that we don't have to go through that traditional rebuild? We got Brown, now we got Fultz or Ball, and we can go forward with that. I'm wondering if that's the thing.
Future though, because Rose. I mean, look at the team though. Like you've got Isaiah Thomas, like at 5'8", realistically.
Yeah, that's what.
3 years from now.
That's what I'm saying, and that's what I'm getting at. Like they're not going to win a championship even if they get Paul George, Jimmy Butler, Gordon Hayward, it's no guarantee that you get past LeBron James.
So no, you got to build assets for when.
And that's what I'm saying. You can win a lot of games now, compete for conference to get to the conference finals, but now you've got Fultz or Ball, you got Jaylen Brown. You got guys like Rozier. You got some young pieces there. So when Thomas and Horford are gone, you're set now nicely. You got next year's Brooklyn pick. So you're not going to go through that traditional rebuild like a team would have to do. You're still going to be good.
Because you're looking at LeBron will be 33 in December.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So you've got a 3-year window. If you can kind of build those assets up, Jaylen Brown, the next year's Brooklyn pick, Fultz or Ball, say another young guy on the team as well that you kind of groom. Say you keep Terry Rozier and want to kind of groom him or
and you got Marcus Smart still as well.
Marcus Smart as well. Like you could kind of groom them, trade one of them in the future, get something back. But if you're Boston, as far as like the hard part there with them is landing that superstar, because Gordon Hayward or Paul George could end up getting that $200+ million max if they make one of them or both make the all NBA teams. Which I think they're announcing those tomorrow. So we'll know kind of where the contract details are. But I think that Hayward, if it was in his heart, he would end up going back to Utah because he's comfortable there. He's a low-key guy. I mean, he drove a Kia, I think, or something like Kia or Toyota or something like that for his entire first 2 years in the league. Is just smart with his money, very low-key. Paul George would be somebody that I think commands the ball too much, even though I think he would fit on Boston. But I think Paul George is destined for the Lakers, and there's no other team kind of in his sights. But if you're Boston, to your point, Gonzo, what you said, you have to have somebody there that has size. You've got to have experience because they can't go into next year with Bradley and Isaiah Thomas kind of as your backcourt with nothing else really behind them. Because this year you had James Young, Gerald Green, Terry Rozier, and Marcus Smart as your backups. That's not going to work.
And here's the beautiful thing. If you sign a guy like Gordon Hayward, eventually you can just put Jaylen Brown at the 2.
Potentially, yeah.
Exactly. Pete, we got a question in the chat here from Hunter Iggy. What do you think the Hornets will do with number 11? What should they do there?
It's tough because you're basically probably going to miss out on the point guards. So unless a guy like Netikalina falls, you've got to start looking at guys like Zach Collins.
Yeah, I was about to say him. I've seen that name thrown out a lot for the Hornets.
You've got another shooter, Lauri Markkanen out of Arizona. But I think the perfect spot for Markkanen would be in Detroit if he can slip that far. to be that stretch shooter that Stan Van Gundy likes. But with Charlotte, you've got to find something to come off the bench behind Kemba Walker because he had another knee surgery on the same knee that basically this is the third year that he's had minor surgery on that same knee.
Yeah.
So that's not good. Looking at Charlotte as a whole, though, like you've got to move Batum away from the 2. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist is at the 3, but he really hasn't shown vast improvement. So you could go shooting there. You could go. I think it's a little too high to put Luke Kennard, that high up. As far as other positions, OG Anunoby out of Indiana would be somebody that they could go after, but he's injured.
Would you go after him? Would you put him at 11? Because wasn't it like an ACL with him?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's a risk. Like he's very good defensively.
Yeah.
Make a difference, but just that injury there. I mean, it's hard to say at this point. Like honestly, if I was Charlotte, I would try to trade back and get multiple picks if you could, because I don't think anybody in that range is really going to step in and help them rotationally.
Yeah.
If I had to make the pick and it was a pick of the draft, I would say Zach Collins probably, because you'd have insurance for if something was to happen to Cody Zeller or anything like that.
And plus you've already got Frank the Tank as well.
Right. So I mean he kind of fits in there front court. But in a perfect world, just to wrap it up, in a perfect world, Charlotte could trade up into the top 7 and get one of the point guards that are left, Neda Kalina or Dennis Smith, Jr., one of those guys. Or they could go for Malik Monk if you think you can steal him away, get some, potent scoring as well.
Now, before we get out of here, Pete, I got to ask you on one guy, very highly sought-after guy going into college this year. The ACL injuries killed him, though. Harry Giles. What do you think happens? Because they were really high on him going into this year at Duke. He was a projected top 3 or 4 guy going into the college season. Obviously, someone's going to take a risk on him on the first round, I think. Where do you think he goes?
I mean, he could go, it's kind of hard to really pinpoint. I would say he goes 17 to 23 range. I could really see him because Brooklyn has a couple picks. I could see Brooklyn using a pick on him. As a young guy, maybe develop him if he works out. That'd be great because his potential is huge. Like if he's healthy, I mean, he's one of the top 5 players in this draft. But if he's not, then it's not going to look good for him at all. But he did do the smart thing, because if you went back to college and got injured, you're done. Like there is no. You're a first-round pick. Like he's barely,
and the potential's there for him to go in the first round right now.
Right? Yeah,
someone's going to take that game.
25 picks, absolutely, no question. Unless somehow there's a red flag on his knees again or anything like that. Now, a guy like Bam Adebayo, he to me is a second rounder, and people have him in like the teens. That's going to be a big mistake. But
are we looking at Orton all over again? Daniel Orton with him?
Not as bad as Daniel Orton, but potentially could flame out of the league pretty quickly.
In 1 year, he's going to be playing in France or something.
No, I mean he'll get a guaranteed contract, but
yeah. and he'll be so bad that they'll get rid of him. I don't want to make fun of him because we want all these young kids to succeed. We're not rooting for anybody to fail.
But at the end of the day, like realistically, Adebayo's skill set just doesn't fit in today's NBA, and that's the thing that's going to hurt him. But
he's a big body.
Right. And, I mean, overall, 6'10", 245, I mean, he could do a couple things off the bench, but I'd rather have, Giles, Ivan Rabb, guys like that before.
What about the big kid, maybe the big kid from Texas?
Oh, Jared Allen. Yeah, I take
Yeah.
Jared Allen. I have Jared Allen just kind of, higher up. I have him going lottery. And then you've got John Collins as well. I take him over.
And then the big kid from Creighton as well.
Oh, Justin Patton.
Yeah.
Patton's kind of hit or miss. I think he fits on a team like Milwaukee. It's kind of his perfect spot. If he doesn't land in Milwaukee, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
For him to kind of find a spot. But, we'll see. A guy that I think could be not as high as picked as Thon Maker was last year, but Hamidou Diallo out of Kentucky. I think he could get all the way up to right in the bottom end of the lottery or just barely outside of it because he's so kind of mysterious not playing in college that people are intrigued by him. Now, he could bust all the way completely, but at the end of the day, like it's that intriguement.
Yeah, I've heard he could be like Zach LaVine.
Potentially, but he's very, 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 very raw.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see there. Justin Jackson's another guy that, hit or miss. But, we can say that for another one, kind of going through the draft prospects and stuff like that. Because it's still early. Guys haven't back out. I think the 24th is the deadline for when underclassmen can undeclare and go back to school. So we'll have to see kind of if there's any shockers or anything like that.
Hey guys, sorry about that. The computer overheated, so unfortunately that ends the broadcast. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Pete, Gonzo for joining us on the panel today. Be sure to look out for us Friday. Obviously, no game tomorrow, but we'll be back Friday. And Pete did an outstanding job with his draft analysis. Be on the lookout because we're going to have Pete and I will be back the day before the draft for our predictions, and also the day of the draft. We will be live analyzing all the picks, so everybody be on the lookout for that. A little over a month away from that, but we'll be back Friday night after game 2, Celtics and Cavs. So I think game 2, 7:30 again. So we'll be back right at about 20, 30 minutes after the game. Everybody enjoy your evenings, and we'll see y'all again on Friday.